imagine getting a driving license, never to drive a car in your life. That's what happens when we write the steps, when we work the steps, but we forget to live them. The 12 steps are not something that we work to get a certificate that we can put on our walls and say, I've done it, that's it, I'm done. And this is what I believed about the 12 steps the first time I went through them. But looking back in hindsight, that is so an immature approach. First, it's so important to understand what are the 12 steps. The 12 steps are 12 biblical principles. They're 12 principles taken out of the Bible, out of Scripture, telling us how to live our lives according to God's will and not to our will. And if you understand that, and if you are anything like me, living in accordance to God's will is not a one-time decision. It's a decision that you have to wake up on a daily basis and make the right choices. I hear so often so many people saying things like, hey, I finished my first step. I've worked my first step. And I'm like, hey, you're still hanging out with people in active addiction. You're still hanging out with your friend that smokes cannabis next to you every day. Hey, you're still going down the pub and like hanging out with all your friends getting drunk. And you were saying to me that you have worked your first step. You might have written your first step, but we prove to others if we have really looked on the first step by the way we live and not by the amount of words we have written. The people that we hang out with, the places that we visit, and the things that we do or have around us is what proves to us and others and to God if we have only written the steps or if we are actually living them. Friends, don't get a driving license never to drive your car. The second step, it says that we have come to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So after the first step, we come to the understanding that alone we're in bad company, that self-sufficiency is a lie, that we need help, that we need others, that we need friends, that we need sponsors, that we need mentors, that alone we have won the battle. So a lot of people, they come to the fellowship, but they don't want to get a sponsor. They don't want to work the steps, or they isolate themselves. They completely isolate themselves. They don't answer their phones and they want to do life on their own. But they will say, I have worked the second step. You might have written the second step, but you prove if you have lived or if you are living the second step by the way you live your life, by accepting help when others offer it, by not isolating when you feel like it, but choosing to lean in and not to lean out. So once again, there is a difference between having written the second step and living the second step. If you have understood that on your own you have failed, you prove that you have understood and that you are living the second step by accepting help and by accepting that you desperately need something greater than yourself so that you can stay clean and sober. Third step, it says that we've made the decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God. So it's one thing saying that I have written that step, and one thing is to say that I'm living that step. If I'm a Christian and I believe that Jesus says to me that I should love my neighbor as myself, and I live on a daily basis being rude to others and treating people in ways that are disgusting, I might have written the steps, but I'm not living the steps, because if I have turned my life and my will over to the care of Jesus Christ, I would be living in a way that honors Him and not in a way that dishonors Him and others. So friends, The steps are not a certificate that we put on a wall. The steps are a set of biblical, spiritual principles that we have to live by. We have to wake up every morning and make a decision to say, God, I want to follow you today and not my own desires. So, have you written the third step? That's great. But let me ask you, today, are you going to live it?